Welcome back, survivor. If you can hear this, it means you're still alive. This is Jack's Nightmares, and this is your next story. The morning begins like it's supposed to. No power spikes, no airflow problems. The main inverter hums steady on standby, drawing slow from the solar-fed battery wall. Water tank reads just under full, same as yesterday. The indicator I rigged beneath the primary intake grill, the one connected to the reed switch and thread line, shows no movement, not even a flicker. I jot everything down in the same block letter log I've used since the beginning. Thick pencil lines, dated entries, notes about changes. It helps to stay predictable, keep the same rhythm, same checks, same order. Outside, the world is still sick. Inside, I control what I can. This place used to be a commercial garage I owned on the edge of a small town near the old rail line. I rented out the gas station up front and the diner next door before everything fell apart. A dozen shops lined the street back then. Hardware store, small pharmacy, even a print shop that ran cheap flyers for local politicians. They're all gone now. Some burned, some looted, some just swallowed by time and rot. But the shell of my old life still stands. The workshop building, cinder block and reinforced steel framing, was solid from the start. That's why I chose it when I began digging. The original basement was already large. I made it deeper, broader, harder to find. The bunker runs 4 rooms wide now, with enough clearance to move freely, even with the mezzanine addition. Lighting's all LED strips and compact bulbs mounted in makeshift frames. I wired backup halogens in case the strips burn out. Main ventilation runs on passive draw most of the year, with crossflow driven by elevation difference and a few low-powered fans if I need to force movement. I check the duct mesh every week. I replace the course pads every third. In a world like this, airflow is life. I make a cup of coffee from the last of the pre-ground stock. No beans left. Instant isn't worth the trade anymore. I keep the cup beside the workbench, where I lay out my sidearm and field knife. The pistol's a full-frame 9mm with no engraving, no personal touches, just clean steel and reliability. The knife has a fixed 8-inch blade, black composite grip, and a reinforced tang. I sharpen the edge until it takes strips off an old cereal box. I oil both. Then I place them in their wall mounts. Not hidden, not flaunted, just where I can reach them. The rifle and the shotgun stay locked in the main cabinet. I haven't fired either in months. I cleaned them 2 weeks ago and logged the dates. No one touches that cabinet but me. The keys stay on my neck, separate from the door keys and the mezzanine lock. Everything has its place. Lena and Evan sleep above in the mezzanine loft. I built it for storage, but after the incident with the vent, after the noise, the coughing, and the message slipped through the duct, it made sense to give them a place, safer than the roof void they'd been hiding in. They stay quiet. They don't overstep. They don't make demands. They've earned that space. We don't pretend this is a family, but I look after them. As long as they follow the rules, I don't ask questions about what came before. I do a full pass of the bunker. No leaks, no signs of soil shift. I press my hand to the concrete wall beside the emergency tunnel frame. Still cool, no tremor. The vibration sensor on the embedded bolt reads 0. I test it weekly. There's a second shaft on the opposite side that used to be the old car wash vent. I sealed it when I moved down here. Too exposed, too unpredictable. But the tunnel beneath the workshop is mine. 5 turns, no straight line. Trap gate at the first bend. It leads to a drain line that hits the storm culvert. Escape path if I ever need it. I've never used it. The sun outside has been stable for 3 days. Bright sky, no storm cover. The battery wall's full. I used to obsess over every watt drawn. Now I let the fridge hum and the backup fans run for a few hours each night just to keep mildew down. I check the filtered exhaust line coming off the generator hush box. Dampers closed, seals clean. The last time I ran the unit was 8 days ago. Heavy overcast that week killed solar input. I don't like running it. Too loud, too hot, too risky, but it still works. The town hasn't seen a large herd in months. Stragglers pass through sometimes. The infected don't move in patterns anymore. The smart ones are gone. Burned out. Starved. What's left are the slow, degraded types. Dead eyes. Bad joints. Twitchy gait. Still dangerous if you're not paying attention. Still lethal in tight spaces. But easier to avoid if you know your surroundings. I built my entire life around knowing mine. The roof stayed clear through the last wind event. I checked the solar panels yesterday from the upper hatch. Clean enough to pull full charge. Someone, probably Lena, left the brush coiled next to the rear ladder. I said nothing. We don't speak much unless something's wrong. That's not cold. That's survival. The front of the garage still looks abandoned. I spent weeks making it that way. Soot-blacked windows, broken signage, boarded door with fake burn marks. Trash bags filled with old insulation hang near the awning to sway in wind. Give the illusion of decay. Inside, every entry point is reinforced. Steel bracing, welded hinges, rebar mesh welded into plywood sheathing. I don't use the old garage doors. I sealed them with poured fill. There's only one entry path now, and it's mine. 6 years of this. The outbreak hit fast and stupid. Rumors, blackouts, then screams. The government collapsed before half the country even understood what was happening. Emergency alerts played on loop long after the stations were abandoned. I remember locking the workshop's front gate the day after the diner burned. I remember the family that begged me for shelter and the weight of saying no. That was early, before I had systems in place. Before I realized that mercy has limits when supplies don't scale. That decision still lives in my chest somewhere. Now the world has thinned. Fewer signals, fewer survivors. Most of the stronghold camps either fell or turned into traps. Raiders moved through last year, tried to torch the gas station. I used a handheld mirror to watch from the roof visor. Never fired a shot. Let them think the place was picked clean. That was the right call. I'm still here. They're not. Every shelf in the main room is catalogued. Every container has a log tag. Food gets tracked by unit, water by liter. Trade goods stay in the locker near the side rack. Soap, batteries, wire, gloves, tape, fuel tablets. When I leave the bunker, it's always for specifics. Filters, boots, glassware, books. I don't scavenge blindly. That's how people die. There's nothing romantic about survival. It's repetition, decay, compromise. It's keeping your hands busy so your mind doesn't spiral. I craft tools even when I don't need them. I sharpen blades. I organize fasteners by thread count. I reread manuals I never had time for before the fall. I keep a growing log of my adjustments, so when something breaks, I can remember how I built it. The DVDs get less use these days. Too many skips, too much wear. But I still watch old training videos sometimes. Military, industrial, survival prep stuff. Reminds me how the world used to work. No alarms, no problems. The system holds. I don't need a crisis to feel the tension. It's always there, built into the walls, the floor, the ductwork. Every sound carries weight. Every silence means something. The infected may be slower now, but the world didn't get safer. It just got quieter. I top off the coffee. The mug's chipped, handle cracked, but it still holds. That's enough. Today things are stable. That means tomorrow probably won't be. A quiet knock comes from the mezzanine gate. 2 short taps. The agreed signal that says, "All clear up there." I go to the handoff shelf, set a loaf of flatbread, a jar of beans, and a dog-eared paperback, and then step back. Lena pulls the shelf in, leaves a folded note, and slides the shelf back. We do not talk long or often. Notes work. The note says Evan slept and asked about the boiler wall tapping again. She reports no new sounds last night. I take the note to the boiler wall anyway. It sits behind the diner duct chase where the old water heater used to stand. Paint is old and flaked. The seam at floor level still shows that hairline crack that should not be there in a solid wall. I put my ear to it. Silence. I tap the edge with a wrench. The return is hollow on the lower right quadrant. That did not change. My chalk marks stay crisp. No one has touched those. I drill a pinhole into the grout line and insert the sampling tube. The pump pulls a thread of air into a small bag. The handheld meter shows oxygen in a normal range and no spike on the chemical strip. Dust is fine and dry. No mold smell, no rot. There is a large space behind that seam. That is clear. I seal the pinhole with duct mastic and step back. I need more filters and more glow sticks before I cut through. I also want a better pry and more medical basics. I could dip into my last spare filter stock, but I prefer a margin. I have a target for supplies that I have avoided for months because it sits in a messy part of town. I kept that in mind for a day when I had to choose between comfort and control. Today, I want control. I write a short note for the mezzanine and slide it under the gate. Quiet hours stand. Do not approach the boiler wall. If you hear 3 knocks, stay still. Food schedule continues. I am out for a supply run and back by nightfall. If the emergency cord flashes, pull cans and lock the gate. I pull on the outdoor kit, canvas jacket, reinforced pants, knee pads, boots. Machete stays on the wall. The large knife slides into the belt sheath. The pistol rides on the hip with a spare magazine in the pocket. I sling an old pack frame with 2 empty sacks and a coil of wire. A compact breeching bar rides on the frame in a taped scabbard. I add a small squeeze bottle of bleach water for hands and handles. I run through the camera feeds. Street is empty, no human shapes, no infected in the forecourt. The roofline stays dull and quiet. I leave through the car wash bay hatch. The vending machine panel swings out and then back into place. The drainage trench holds no standing water. I move low along the trench edge and cut through the alley behind the hardware store. The city still holds its shape if you know where to look. Lines, corners, sight angles. I keep those in mind and do not cross open space unless I have confirmed what sits in every window and doorway. I pass the rail line and check the pillar base where I saw fresh paint in the past. The red triangle slash is still there but older now. No new layer. Wind has pushed grit into the grooves. The truck I want sits 2 blocks ahead, wedged into a department store front, where heavy glass failed in both directions. I stop 1 block back and loop a thin wire from a street lamp bolt to a row of empty cans under a bent bench. If something trails me, the line will shake and the cans will rattle. No electricity, no broadcast, just a small old trick. I reach the truck and crouch by the overturned cab. It sits on the driver's side, nose into a display that used to sell clothes. The windshield cracked into a spider pattern but does not drop. I test the top edge with the breeching bar and lift the lip until it creaks. I slide through the gap and drop my feet to the cab floor. The air inside smells of old rubber and dry canvas. The glove compartment hangs open, emptied long ago. A hand light case sits under the passenger seat, still taped. I cut the tape clean and check the light. It clicks. The cell inside gives a weak beam. I take it. A folded map is lodged between the seat and door. I photograph it with my head camera and put it back. No need to carry paper out if I can hold the image. A small hatch separates cab from cargo. The latch bent at some point. I pry it gently until the metal gives. I push through feet first and pull my pack after me. The cargo space holds racks, crates, and straps. 1 rack is empty. The other holds a carbine with a service sling and a semi-auto shotgun with a short barrel, both tagged with unit numbers and old inspection tape. The rack locks are intact. That is rare. I check the triggers with my eyes and do not place fingers in guards. I undo the locks and ease both out. I store them in the fabric case I brought and pad the case with a thermal blanket from a supply bin. I keep my pistol on the hip, even after bagging the long guns. Old habit. Never stow your last working tool until the route home is secure. I open 2 smaller crates. 1 holds gloves, spare filters, and field rags. I take 3 filters and 1 pair of gloves. The other holds glow sticks and a compact pry wedge. I take 4 sticks and the wedge. A taped box under a strap holds 2 flashbangs in sealed tubes with warnings printed clear. I have not used these in years. I know what they do and what they can cause if misused. I take them anyway and mark the storage in my head. Break glass only if I have to break a line of sight and run. A shuffle ticks the air from somewhere behind a shelf. It is soft and steady. I hold still. It grows a little closer and then stops. I hear 1 moan with no air force behind it, then nothing. I wait 3 counts of 60 and edge back through the cab. The windshield lip falls back into place without a bang. On the street, I take my wire and can line, coil it into my pack, and step away at a steady pace. I do not run. Running pulls eyes. Distance buys me more than speed. On the rail crossing, I stop and scan long. 2 infected have drifted to the truck from a block away. They move with that slow pull toward fresh dust and faint sound. They do not look down my street. A third one leans near a signpost and does not move. I keep going. Back at the car wash bay, I do my usual decontamination. Boots in the tray, bleach wipe on hands, knife handle, pistol grip, pack straps, and zipper pulls. I open the workshop door an inch and bring the packs inside, then close the outer hatch. Once the inner bolt sets, I breathe easier. Not relief, just a note in the notebook in my head that says, inside. I display everything on the workbench and photograph the layout for the log. The carbine and shotgun go to the metal cabinet bolted into the slab, both unloaded with chambers clear and bolts locked back. I place a small amount of ammunition on the higher shelf and lock the cabinet. I seal the flashbang tubes in a separate lockbox. Filters, gloves, glow sticks, and pry wedge go to the open bin near the boiler wall. Then I sit and write. I keep the tone of my log plain. Time of exit, time of return, route, cues, what I took, what I left, possible new hazard. I draw the small symbol I saw in that district a while back and note that I did not see a fresh mark today. I flag a reminder to recheck that spot in a week. Patterns matter when everything else fails. I leave a short note for the mezzanine on the handoff shelf. Back, supplies gathered. Tonight is quiet hours. No approach to the boiler wall. When I tap 3 times tomorrow midday, stay behind the gate and do not respond. Water and food schedule as posted. Lena's reply comes 5 minutes later. Understood. She adds a list of needs on the barter board. Trash bags, soap, pencils. I fill what I can. The next day, I prep the breach. I tape plastic protective sheeting around the boiler wall and clear the floor. I get the sampling pump, the new filters, the hand light, glow sticks, carbon pads, and the small inspection camera. I pull the inspection plate near the seam and check the screw stops. The reed switch on the intake stays dark. The vibration sensor shows nothing from the emergency door. I set a timer in my head. 2 hours. If I do not tap at 2 hours, the mezzanine locks and waits. I score the tile in a rectangle, use 2 suction anchors, and remove the outer skin. Behind it, a metal hatch plate sits with a mechanical wheel and a dead light. The plate bolts to a concrete sleeve. Old but clean, I unfasten the bolts and try the wheel. It does not move at first. I oil the thread and work it back and forth. It gives with a dry scrape that I can feel through the handle. I open only a crack and press a carbon pad over the gap. I let the air equalize through the pad for 20 minutes. I pump another sample. No spike, no gas I recognize. The air is stale but not poisonous. I pull the pad, open the hatch enough to slip past, and step into the dark corridor. I do not close the hatch behind me. I wedge it with a block and leave a glow stick at the threshold. I carry the hand light low and keep the beam on the floor. Straight corridor. Painted lines run along the base of the wall. Signs sit unsmiling on the concrete. Words read service, observation, and Sector 9 in faded paint. The air is cool. Dust lies thin across the floor with no fresh footprints. My own steps cut clean paths through that dust. I mark the wall with chalk as I go. Arrow to the hatch. Line across my path every 20 paces. I do not speak. A storage cabinet stands open and empty. A fan housing sits on a bracket with dead blades. A clipboard hangs on a hook with blank forms sealed in plastic. A breaker room sits behind a metal door. I test the handle. It moves. Inside, the main cut is off. I do not touch it. I do not touch any switch. Power is noise. Noise pulls danger. At a bend in the corridor, I hear a faint sound from a vent. Not a pipe groan, not dripping. 2 short breaths and the light scrape of skin on metal. I freeze and wait. No other sound. I say one line in a level voice. I am not your enemy. The vent remains dark. After a count, I set a sealed bottle of water on the floor near the grill and step back 20 paces. I wait. Nothing moves. I leave the bottle there and turn back to my own hatch. I keep the 2-hour clock in mind. When I reach the hatch, I tap 3 times with the wrench for the mezzanine. I close and seal the hatch, set the wheel back to neutral, and note the position. I leave a brief report for Lena. Big corridor, clean, no bodies, no smell. I heard a sound from a vent. I left water. No power turned on. I will go back with a better map and leave markings. Do not approach the boiler wall. If you hear strange tapping at night, wake me. Do not respond. I sleep in my boots. I wake twice to check the reed switch indicator and the vibration sensor. Those stay dark. I watch camera feeds for 20 minutes and do not see movement outside the workshop. The night slides by with only small creaks from the frame as the temperature settles. The mezzanine stays quiet. During morning chores, I pass the boiler wall and notice the water bottle I left yesterday is gone from the hatch threshold where I set it while sealing up. The one in the corridor might also be gone. Or not. I will check. Either way, something took water here. The chalk marks on the hatch wheel still align with my line from yesterday. No one spun it from this side. I write a small instruction card for the corridor. Water here. Food here at sundown. If you need help, tap 2 times and wait. I bring a sealed ration to the hatch and set it on the safe side. I drill a second small hole in the plastic sheeting and run a thin cord through to hold a paper card at knee height with arrows drawn on it that point to the room I plan to convert for safe use. I tape the line under tension so it hangs flat. I open the hatch again and step into the corridor with the hand light low. The water I had placed near the vent yesterday is gone. No spill, no smear. An empty cap sits on the floor by the wall, neatly placed, not dropped. I look up into the ventilation grill. Dust circles the edges, but the center is cleaner. I speak one line, same tone. I will make a room near here that is safe. I do not wait for a response. I mark the lines, place 2 glow sticks to mark the path from the hatch to a small side room, and back out. I pick the room near the hatch because I can control it. The door opens on manual hinges. Inside, it is bare concrete with a small drain in the floor. No glass to the corridor. Good. I scrub the surfaces with bleach water and let it dry. I carry in a cot, a thermal blanket, a pillow in a clean case, a lamp that runs from a small battery, and a sealed jug of water. I mount a vent filter over the small grill near the ceiling. I place a bowl, a cup, and a towel. I leave a small box of bandages. I tape a card on the wall that says, "You can sleep here. No one will touch you here. Tap twice if you need water. Tap 3 times if you need food. Tap 4 times if you need help." I return to the hatch and listen. Quiet. I close up, seal the seam, and spin the wheel to neutral. On the way back to the main room, I stop at the mezzanine gate and slide a note. "Safe room prepared near the hatch. Do not approach. I will maintain it. If you hear tapping in a new pattern, wake me and wait." The reply comes after a minute. "Understood. Evan asked if the person is a child." I write back. "I do not know. Small hand or cautious adult. We will stick to the plan. No contact without rules." By afternoon, I make a second run to the district with the truck. I do not want to go twice in 2 days, but batteries and extra filters matter when a new space opens. I vary the route. I loop north and come in through a loading lane lined with dumpsters and dead vines. The truck sits where it did. The windshield gap is still workable. My can line from yesterday is gone from the bench. It lies in the gutter, scuffed. I leave it where it lies. Someone or something crossed that path in the last day. Inside the cargo, I grab a small box of batteries, 1 medical pouch with gauze and antiseptic wipes, 2 more filters, and a rolled rescue blanket. I do not take more ammunition. I do not take another weapon. I do not open new crates. On the street outside, a fresh spray mark sits on a wall opposite the store. A circle with 2 short lines through it. New paint, wet edges. I stand there 5 seconds too long. I walk away at a normal pace. I do not break stride. That symbol will repeat somewhere else. I do not like that. I return by a different path. I stop twice and listen for feet behind me. Nothing. At the car wash bay, I run the bleach wipe over the fresh gear and step inside. I store the batteries and the first aid pouch on the shelf. I put the extra filters in the bin. I take a deep breath and let it out steady. I do not sit. I go back to the boiler wall and open the hatch to service the safe room. The room is not empty now. The blanket sits rumpled. The cup has water missing. The towel is moved. No drawings. No thank you notes. No trace beyond small, neat disturbance. I replace the water jug with a second sealed one and leave a sealed food pouch on the cot. I place one small mirror on the shelf and write one line on a card. You can write your name on the back if you want. I leave the card next to the mirror, turn the lamp to low, and step out. I stay with the plan. I do not push. I do not wait in a corner for a sighting. I provide and retreat. I go back to the control booth I saw on the second foray and study the labels again. Radio panel with terms I do not trust. One label reads mask, another reads field sync. Both look connected to a coax bundle that vanishes into the wall. I take the cover off a side junction box and trace the fuses. I remove a small glass fuse and a short coax stub and put them into my pocket. Without those, the panel should be quiet even if some stray power finds it. I label the empty slots with tape and write my initials. If I forget or someone else stumbles through, I want clear proof that I did this on purpose. On the way out, I see the empty water bottle near the vent I serviced on day one. The cap is set on edge near the grill. No message. I leave another bottle in the same spot and walk away 20 paces. A soft hand slips into view and pulls it through the grill. I do not turn the light on it. I do not talk. I keep walking and round the corner. My hands feel tight without shaking. I keep them still. I close the hatch and set the wheel to neutral. I cross to the mezzanine gate and leave a note. Person use safe room. I saw a hand. Small. No words. Boundaries stay. Do not change routine. Lena writes back. Okay. Evan wants to give a drawing. Is that allowed? I write, yes. One simple drawing. No names. I will place it in the room. Evan hands me a small square of paper at the handoff. It shows a door, a sun, and a bucket of water with waves at the top. Clean lines. He has a steady hand. I take it to the safe room and place it on the cot. I add a note that reads, "You are safe here." I close the door and retrace my path to the hatch. 2 days pass like that. Supply, check, retreat. The air in the corridor stays stable. The control booth stays dead. The map wall gives me a sense of the layout, but no shortcut that would risk me getting lost. I leave glow sticks at corners and pick them up when I pass back by. I replace them when they fade. On the third day, the child writes a name. I find it on the back of the card by the mirror. One word in printed letters. Miri. I take a photo of it and do not remove the card. I write understood on a new card and leave it face up. I do not try to do more. That night, a camera on a far corner of the block picks up a pickup truck in low gear. It stops near an alley and then rolls off. No one gets out. The next morning, a new symbol sits at the base of a light pole 3 blocks from my building. The same round shape with 2 lines. It mirrors the one near the truck district. I do not know if the same group travels this path or if that sign is a wider marker now. I log it, and I redraw a set of dead zones I will not cross on salvage runs. I push a quiet drill with the teenagers. We run the drainage culvert route twice in the dim. We do not talk. We only place caches. 1 cache with water at the first bend, 1 with bandages and soap at the second bend, 1 with plastic sheet and tape near the exit. I make Evan go last on the second pass. He needs to see the route from the rear and from the front. He moves slow but smooth. When we return, I thank both for doing it clean. The next day, a cold front pushes in. The sky goes white and stays that way. The panels soak light but not enough. Battery levels droop earlier than I want. I run the generator for short cycles. I tell Lena the plan and pass the portable carbon filter for the mezzanine. I hang a card on the corridor hatch that warns of generator runs. I do not want Miri to sit in unfiltered air. I leave a second filter pad in the safe room with a note on when to change it. I do not know if Miri will read it. I hope the lamp colors are enough to explain. While the generator runs, I stand near the hush box and watch the exhaust temperature. The line stays in range. No fabric block this time. The lock tab on the diverter holds. The carbon monoxide meter chirps low when I first start drawing, then drops when the portable filter box near the hatch pulls the stale air. I keep the cycle short. Noise and heat draw attention. I do not want that. Later in the week, a small status light in the control booth blinks once and dies. I did not feed power into that panel. Something on a remote line tried to pull it awake for a single pulse. Maybe a line check far away nudged an old wire. I pull the panel again and confirm my fuse cut and coax removal. Still cut. I close the box, step back, and write another label. No power. I flip through documents in the file cabinet in the main corridor and copy a few key pages by hand. One shows satellite images over several cities with heat plumes and a note that reads, "Resource limited, do not announce." Another lists words around a mask signal that claim to reduce group clustering. None of it is a cure. None of it keeps a family fed. I copy, then shut the binder and put it back where I found it. I do not remove documents. Paper is noise if it lands in the wrong hands. I do not bring the teenagers in to see any of this. They do not need old anger. They need safety and structure. I tell them only what matters for the next day and the day after. I walk the forecourt cameras as the sun goes low. A 2-vehicle set noses into the far end of the block and idles. 3 figures get out. One carries a pry bar. One has a long object wrapped in cloth. One holds a handheld radio. They look into shop fronts and speak short sentences I cannot hear. They do not wave guns. They also do not pass by without a slow scan. They are careful. Careful people worry me more than loud ones. I do not turn anything on. That would send a signal. I uncoil a length of cord that I ran through a window frame on the block behind us last summer and give it a hard tug. A metal sign falls onto an alley dumpster with a sharp ring. 2 infected peel off from an old doorway and move toward that sound. The 3 people on the street stop, look, and then back out of the block. They do not run. They make the right call and give the infected space. When the infected drift back to their corner, the people are gone. I log what I saw. I do not chase names or faces. In the days that follow, Miri uses the safe room under the same pattern. Food disappears. Water drops. Blanket lies crumpled and then folded. The cord by the door flashes once on the tiny indicator and then goes dark. I replace the water. I place a small pack of crayons from the thrift store in the safe room and leave one more note. Tap 2 for water. Tap 3 for food. Tap 4 for help. No one will enter this room while you are inside. Evan leaves another drawing. A door with 3 stick figures under a square roof. It shows a small person in the corner and 2 taller figures apart. I carry it to the safe room and place it on the shelf. The next day, the drawing sits in a new position, slightly rotated. A second drawing rests next to it. Simple lines showing a vent, and lines that mean air. I take that to mean Miri understands the rules through air and space more than words. I schedule another deep check of Sector 9 and pick a side corridor I have not walked. I open each door an inch and test the air. Dry, no bad smell, no bodies. One room holds empty brackets with labels that used to hold cryo units. Refrigerant lines are cut. Evaporators have dust. That past is done. No pod to confuse choices now. No person to lock in or free. The facility is a husk with a few working vents and thick walls. It is useful only because I control how much of it wakes. Back up top, a fresh symbol goes up 2 blocks from the diner, the circle with 2 lines. It points in a direction that could be a route marker. The can traps at the mezzanine and the old break room rattle in the evening when the building shifts. No actual steps. I rehang 2 lines so they sit an inch off the floor, where even a careful person will bump them. The cold front thickens. I set nighttime generator cycles for short windows and warn the mezzanine when I switch to run. The portable filter hums near their door and pushes clean air. I choose late afternoon for noise because the light outside covers minor movement. I walk to the hatch and place a card for Miri. Generator today. Air filter inside should help. Stay in safe room if you feel stale air. I slide the portable carbon box into the corridor and plug it to a brick. It vibrates steady. I close the hatch and run the generator for 10 minutes, then stop to let heat wash out. All numbers sit where I want them. I repeat that 2 more times before true dark. Evan pushes for contact the next morning. He asks if he can meet Miri. I do not snap. I keep my voice level and say no. I explain the rule again. He listens. I hand him 3 cards and say he can draw 3 quiet things to leave in the room. He nods and gets to work. He gives me a tool, a cup, and a sun. I carry them to the safe room and leave them on the shelf next to the mirror. The next day, the drawings are laid in a neat line near the pillow. Lena asks if this will grow into something bigger. I tell her I will not bring anyone into the mezzanine. I will keep the safe room clean and stocked. I will let Miri sleep there and leave through the vents if that is what Miri wants. I will not push anyone into a family they did not ask for. I will not risk either of the teenagers. I say it without any edge. It is just the rule that keeps us alive and decent at the same time. The week after that, I find fresh chalk dust on the hatch wheel in a position I did not set. It moved 1 notch tighter than neutral. My screw stop held. The hatch did not open beyond the slack I allow for equalization. I check camera feeds of the workshop. No one moved from that side. That means someone on my side put a hand on the wheel and spun it a fraction, then stopped. It could have been Miri testing the boundary, or it could have been an echo from a pressure shift that clicked the wheel past the friction point. I file the thought away and add a small internal pin that catches the wheel at neutral. Now it will not spin without 2 deliberate moves. I set a drill for a full evacuation in case the men with symbols return at the wrong hour. We move through the car wash, into the culvert, step through the first bend cache, then the second, then kneel near the exit and count 60 in silence. That is the window where most people lose patience. We do not. We hold the count to the number with steady breaths and wait until the air outside feels wide again. Then we return the way we came and reset every can line we crossed. During the next foray into Sector 9, a small door I marked earlier shows a green manual flag in the frame and a dead electric lock above it. I study the frame. The hinges are strong. I brace a pry and a jack brace with pads and ease the door open 1 inch. I slip the sampling tube through the crack and wait. The air is dry, not rancid. I close the door again and log it. No need to open a room if I do not plan to put a person in it. The safe room near the hatch is still the best choice for now. On a quiet afternoon, I find a new card in the safe room placed under the mirror. It reads in uneven but clear letters. No night noise. I write back 1 line. I will keep it still during midnight hours. I adjust my filter cycle by 2 hours so that the portable box does not hum near the safe room after lights out. My own bunker has a fan that runs at a low tone. I drop that to the lowest setting that still moves air. A person in ducts would notice those pitch changes. I do not forget that. A day later, the convoy returns at a distance and marks a trash bin with the same double-line circle. They peer down my block and move on. The infected in the area drift at midday and then return to shadows when the light brightens. We stay dark through the whole window. I do not move more than a step inside the main room. I sit with a book and fill half a page in the log between paragraphs. I do not call this peace. I call it a day that does not get worse. The safe room work becomes a routine. I clean the drain, wipe the surfaces, replace water, and restock 1 food pouch every day. I change the vent filter every few days. I fold the blanket and lay it at the foot. I place a new card with 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, and labels for water, food, help, and a small square that means wait. Miri follows those. When I hear 2 taps on the doorframe, I leave water outside the hatch and step back. When I hear 3 taps, I leave food. 4 taps came once. I went in at the next light and found a small scrape on a finger. I left antiseptic wipes and a bandage. The next day, the bandage sat in the trash bag. The scrape had a clean line of ointment and looked fine. I do not ask Miri's age or school or family. I do not put names into air that can travel down pipes. I feed the room. I keep the hatch closed. I let the ducked voices rest. Snow dust drifts across rooftops one morning and adds weight to every sound. The solar drops early again. I run the generator in a longer window and watch the exhaust. I never let the temperature spike. I listen for coughs in ducts and hear none. Miri remains quiet during generator runs. The portable filter light glows low from the corridor. That is enough. Evan pushes for a face-to-face once more. He asks if he can bring a cup of hot water to the safe room and wait outside in the corridor for a minute. I say no. I say he can draw a kettle, and I will set a thermos in the room while he sleeps. He sighs and nods. He knows I am not punishing him. He knows I am keeping him alive. I set more traps for the humankind rather than the infected. A broken pane over an alley slot. A tripcord at ankle height near the loading door that will move a small ring against rebar. I place them so that a careful human will see them only when it is too late to catch the motion. I do not want anyone hurt. I want a warning that gives us time to lock and sit at silence. On a grey day, I take the carbine out to clean. I do not load it. I pull the bolt, wipe the parts, oil rails, and reassemble. The shotgun gets the same treatment. I return both to the cabinet, lock it, and run a finger over the key hanging from my neck on a string. I do not enjoy the weight of that metal. It is a tool, not a comfort. I walk back into Sector 9 and stand at the control booth. I place the copied pages in a sealed folder with a plain cover and the word notes on the front. I slide the folder into a slot under the radio desk. If someone finds the space in 5 years, those pages might matter, or they might not. I do not scream into old wires or turn a dial and hope. I choose a slower form of pressure, record and defend. At dusk, a soft sound pulls me to the boiler wall. 2 taps. Pause. 2 taps again. I take a water jug to the hatch, open the door a hand width, and set the jug on the corridor floor. A small hand reaches through the vent down the hall and taps on the grill twice. I stand still and let that be our last signal of the night. I close the hatch and spin the wheel to neutral. Days pass. Minor snow, sharp cold. The world outside turns quiet and brittle. The infected move less in full light and more in the weak hours. The convoy marks one more symbol near the old diner and does not return for a week after that. I scrub snow grit off the panels under cover of the visor and move fast with the brush, head below the parapet. The array hums back to a better output. I climb down without pausing. One evening, right before the quiet hours, the tiny indicator by the safe room door flashes. 4 quick blinks. The help code. I move with care and open the hatch to the corridor. The glow sticks mark the path. I carry the first aid pouch and a small thermometer that does not beep. I set them down in the safe room entrance and back out to the corridor with my hand on the door jamb. I wait there. No shadow moves across the doorway. I speak without raising my voice. I left bandages and a thermometer. I step back and wait again. Later, the pouch sits outside the door with 1 bandage missing, and the thermometer shows a normal reading. I collect the pouch, check for blood, and see only a folded wrapper. I do not press for details. I close the room and log the event. Miri uses tools carefully. That matters. The next morning, I find a card in the safe room with 1 line on it. I hear trucks. I note the time. I check cameras. A single truck rolled 2 blocks away at dawn. It did not stop. No one got out. The exhaust left a dark line of moisture that dried by noon. Miri heard that through the ducts. This place holds sound in strange paths. I study the junction between the Sector 9 vent tree and the old diner chases. I do not open any covers. I only measure the sound paths with my ear and a small tuned tube I built from an old flute piece. I learn which vents carry street sound and which carry room sound. I tape a card near the safe room vent that says, "If loud outside, stay here and wait." A week later, the convoy returns and attempts a side door pry in a storefront 2 buildings away. The sound carries down the block like a mallet on a metal sheet. Infected move from a shaded alcove and drift toward the pry. The humans back off fast and leave the area with no voices raised. They did not come to die. I respect that. I still do not want them near my doors. I seal the boiler hatch with a second mechanical stop made from a plate and 2 bolts that slide into slots I cut into the frame. When the wheel sits at neutral, the plate slides across the base and the bolts drop into those slots. It is not a lock that needs a key. It is a physical bar that needs 2 hands and an understanding of how the frame was made. I stand back and look at the sign I painted on the wall above the hatch. Controlled area. I authorize access here only. I leave no name. I leave no symbol. I leave my rule. That night, I watch a movie with the projector at low brightness and subtitles on. I keep the volume muted. The fan hum sits at a steady tone that blends into the line noise of my life. I write my notes by hand on the log page that begins with the words Sector 9 Winter. I list weapons readiness, pistol and large knife at hand, carbine and shotgun locked and checked once a week, flashbangs secured and not for routine use. I list air status, secondary intake stable, carbon pads replaced, safe room vent filter changed on schedule. I list community status, 2 in the mezzanine, 1 in the vents, and 1 in the room below with a locked door between. It is not family. It is not a group name. It is balance. I think about the papers in the control booth and the maps in the file cabinet. The world that chose what to ignore sits behind flat words and clean lines. I do not burn those pages. I also do not carry them upstairs and teach teenagers about broken decisions from a dead office. I choose the boring path. I preserve the paper. I guard the hatch. I feed the small person who wrote Miri on a card and sleeps behind a door I control. I do not say that I am right. I say that this is the only way I know that does not end with more doors forced and more names pushed into my walls. Days turn, and the small noises of this place become a rhythm I can trust. 2 taps for water, 3 taps for food, 4 taps at odd hours for small cuts or simple pain. I answer those without questions, and I keep the antiseptic wipes well stocked and the small box of pain tablets counted and locked. When a bottle goes missing, I see the return of the wrapper in the trash bag the next day. That tells me someone in the duct knows about waste and rules. I hold on to that. On a morning when sun pushes hard through the thin clouds, I go to the roof under the visor and clean the panels with a long-handled brush while staying low. My hands run along the frames, and I feel grit lift away. I check the combiner box and see the voltage rise on the handheld meter. It is a small win. I take those when they come and do not stand up where eyes can find me. I drop through the hatch and bolt it clean. I catch the smell of warm dust in the bunker. That tells me the concrete has held the daytime heat. I switch the light-emitting diode work lamps to a lower setting and clean the sink. I say the names in my head. Mason checks in on Mason. Then I check that the teenagers are set. And then I check on the safe room. That is the order. If I do not do it in the same order every time, I forget small things. Small things bring big things. At dusk, one final tiny event tells me the plan holds. In the safe room, the mirror I left sits at a new angle so that it points toward the door. The card with the name rests under one corner so it does not slide. The lamp is off to conserve the battery. The water jug is half full. I turn the lamp on for a second to write a new card. All good. I turn it off and close the door. I sit at the bench with the projector glow washing the wall and the hum of the intake holding steady. I write on the log page to end the night. System adjusted. 2 teenagers in the mezzanine. 1 child in a safe room in the sector corridor. Weapons locked except the pistol and knife. No broadcast. No signals. No rescue sent to strangers. Help provided to those I can see and protect. We hold ground and do not break our own rules. I put the pen down and lean back without closing my eyes. Silent rooms only stay silent because someone listens to them. So I listen. The next morning begins with a scrape near the hatch, and it is small and neat. A card under the door. It reads, "Thank you," in a hand that is steadier than before. I lift it and place it in the folder that holds the copied pages and the map sketches and the other small proof that this place works when it follows a path. The folder slides into its slot under the bench. I take bread to the mezzanine handoff and a jar of beans and a new book. The shelf slides in. A note comes back. We slept and stayed quiet. No night tapping. I write a smiley face even though I do not draw many. I push it across and hear a small laugh through the gate. It breaks the still room in a way that does not risk us. I accept that gift and do not ask for another. The day's maintenance list is plain. Change a filter pad. Check the hatch bolts. Clean the safe room drain. Swap one glow stick in the corridor. Walk the perimeter and check every can line. Disassemble the pistol and wipe the rails. Boil water for washing cloths. No drama, no waste, just work. I say it aloud once, not because I like the sound, but because clear words help the hands follow the plan without drifting. I start with air. The secondary intake carries a slow draw from the east wall duct. I pop the pre-filter frame and slide the pad into a rinse tray. Grey water runs off in thin streams, more dust than last week, which fits the wind we had. I press a fresh pad into the frame and seat the clips. The reed switch on the mesh stays dark. A quick check of the carbon canister shows a steady line on the flow meter. I log the change on the housing with grease pencil and repeat it in the notebook. The hatch bolts get the next look. I kneel with a work light and run fingers across every washer and thread. No play, no new scuffs. The wheel sits at neutral against the stop pin I added. I draw a thin white line across the base plate and the wheel. Just another witness mark, just in case a month from now my eyes are not as sharp. I check the second mechanical stop that slides into the slots. It drops smooth and lifts without noise. I add a thin coat of oil and wipe the excess. The safe room drain has a film of silt. I pour a small kettle of hot water down the grate and brush the rim with a stiff nylon brush. No smell, no discoloration. The foam seal around the vent is still clean and tight. I wipe the lamp housing and test the switch. It glows low and turns off without a flicker. I fold the blanket into a tight roll and set it at the foot of the cot. Water jug sits at half, so I swap it for a full one and leave a handcard with the 2 tap mark for water, 3 tap mark for food, and 4 tap mark for help. In the corridor, one glow stick has faded to a dull smear. I crack a new stick, shake until the light holds steady, and hang it at the same eye-level hook. The old stick goes into a disposal bag. The path from the hatch to the safe room remains easy to follow even for a person who does not want contact. That was the point. No need to guess. Just follow the line. I walk the perimeter. Each can line hangs an inch off the floor so that even a careful step sets a soft rattle. I pluck each line and listen for the same pitch as last week. One near the break room door sounds dull. A bit of dust weighed a lid. I wipe it clean and retie the knot. The mezzanine stairwell trip rattles true. I let the wire settle and check the mezzanine gate bolts. Secure. No cracks in the frame. Back at the bench, I field strip the pistol. Rails carry a thin line of clean oil. Feed ramp is bright. I run a patch through the barrel until it comes out clear, then seat the slide and function check by hand. No grit in the action. Magazine spring still has good tension. The larger knife gets a few passes on a stone, then a quick test on cardboard. It bites neat and leaves straight shavings. I wipe the blade and resheath it. The familiar weight on the belt is not comfort. It is a tool where it belongs. Water boils in the small pot set on the hot plate. I pour it into a clean bucket with a measured dose of soap and drop in a handful of cloths. I stir with a dowel and set a 5-minute timer by habit, even though the exact minute does not matter. Routine keeps waste low. When the time passes, I wring each cloth and hang them on the line near the dehumidifier. The slow, warm air will dry them by night. I step up to the mezzanine handoff shelf with a plate of bread, a jar of beans, and 2 apples from the last crate I salvaged when the weather turned. A note waits there from Lena. Gatebolt tightened. Evan rehung the cans. No noise in the night. I write back. Good work. Drills tomorrow after midday meal. Short run only. The shelf slides in, and a soft scrape on the floorboards overhead tells me they moved away. Before I close the safe room for the day, I leave one more card. No generator today. Quiet hours from dusk to dawn. Sleep safe. I place it where a person will see it on the way in, and I step back to the corridor. 2 quick taps sound from the vent far down the hall. I do not try to answer. The code is set. The meaning is clear enough. A final sweep of Sector 9's outer rooms takes me down the usual loop. I keep the light low and only glance into spaces I have already cleared. I do not open deeper doors. No reason. The control booth still sits dead with the panel fuses I removed and the coke stub in my pocket. I run a finger across the tape tags I wrote and confirm the marks did not peel. I check the handwritten copy of the pages I took from the binder. Dry. Ink holds. I slide the folder back into its slot under the desk with the front edge flush to the underside. If someone finds this place in a year, the folder will still be dry and legible. If no one finds it, it still costs me nothing to keep truth where it can be read. Back at the hatch, I stand at the painted letters over the frame. Controlled area. I authorize access here only. I put 2 fingers on the paint. It is still solid, no flakes. The words have done their job so far. No one on my side made the mistake of thinking the sector is a playground. No one on the other side saw a light show through the vent and came hunting. I push the bolt into its seat. The wheel sits at neutral. I close the secondary stop and set the pin. I take a look at the roof before late light fades. Through the shop ladder and the visor hatch, I climb to the flat. The panels hold a fine trace of dust from yesterday's breeze. I sweep them with the soft brush, quick and methodical, and keep my head below the parapet as always. I check the combiner box latch and the cable tie-downs. No bite marks, no weather crack. Output on the handheld meter bumps up a little after the clean, enough to keep the batteries happy through night. From the visor edge, I scan the street. The gas pumps lean the same way they did last week. The rusted sedan near the corner stays frozen with its hood up. The diner's roof has sagged another finger's width at the old vent curb. I can see the line from here because I marked it on a chip of paint last month. No human shapes. One infected far off moves across an alley mouth and disappears. The block holds its silence without strain. I go back down and set the hatch bolts. I cook a simple meal. Rice from a sealed jar. A scoop of lentils. A spoon of canned tomatoes. Nothing fancy. Enough fuel to warm the pan, and then off. I eat at the bench with the logbook open. I write the day's changes. Filter pad swapped. Safe room drain scrubbed. Glow stick replaced. Perimeter clean. Pistol rail wiped. Cloths boiled. I add a line. 2 taps in corridor mid-afternoon. No request. That way when a week passes, and I wonder if I imagined it, I will not. There is one more task I kept for the end. I take a clean envelope from a drawer and write a simple title on the front in block letters. Read this first. Inside, I place a page of directions, the route through the culvert, the location of the caches, the location of the hush box shutoff, the air sample method, the rules of the safe room, and a plain sentence: do not power the control booth. I slide the envelope into a metal sleeve under the main bench with a clip that only releases if the drawer above it is pulled out all the way. I hope no one ever needs it. I do not count on luck. Evan comes to the mezzanine gate after the meal. He knocks once and speaks through the bars without raising his voice. He asks if the drill can include him going last again. I say yes. I ask if he checked the can line at the second bend. He says yes, and that it sits tight. I tell him he did well. Lena's voice comes from deeper in the mezzanine. She asks if the roof cleaning is done for the week. I say yes, and I remind both that no one goes near the hatch after dusk. They answer with a yes in the same tone, and the gate slides shut. I take a last walk through the main floor of the workshop. The old lifts are gone, replaced with shelving and water drums. The welded plates on the garage doors still seat flush. The fake burn marks on the street-facing panels look as real as ever, faded just enough that anyone curious will think the place survived one fire and then died. The radio sits in its box, antenna unplugged, battery removed. I have not sent a word in years. If another voice is out there, I cannot know without saying where I am. That is a price I will not pay. There is one memory that still rises in this room at odd hours. The family at the gate on the second day of the fall. I do not push it away. I do not feed it either. I keep it as a marker for limits. I did not have a safe room then. I did not have filters like these. I had a roof and a scared mind and a lock. I tell myself the only thing I can do now to honor that day is to hold a better line with the power I have today. That is the difference between regret and a pattern that keeps repeating. I check the hush box one more time, not because I plan to run it, but because I want to see the gasket seat. I run my hand along the exhaust diverter and the lock tab I welded over the access plate. No soot at the seam, no loose clamp. I keep a small kit of spare gaskets and a length of high-temp tape in a tray on the side. If something cracks during a run, it will not turn into panic. It will turn into a repair. I carry a small plastic bin to the safe room with a new towel, a bar of soap, and a rubber band to tie the towel to a hook if someone wants privacy from the door. I set the bin on the shelf and place the towel inside with the short note folded on top. For washing, leave the bar to dry after. I back out and close the door. On the corridor floor near the vent, a bottle cap sits upside down. The little things line up into a picture if you let them. The drill after midday goes clean. We move through the car wash bay, pull the blind into place, drop into the culvert, and follow the bends with the small marks I carved into the concrete. We stop at the first cache. I ask Evan to lead to the second. He does without looking back. At the last bend near the exit, we kneel and count to 60 in steady rhythm. No one speaks. Then we return. Back inside, I call it good, and tell both to drink water and eat a little salt. No hero talk, just small, correct steps. I spend the late afternoon sewing a tear in a canvas bag and patching a glove with a square of leather cut from an old boot. Needlework in quiet keeps the mind straight, and the gear lasts longer when the holes get fixed before they grow. I label the glove with a mark of paint so I know which hand to use it for in the dark. Not every system needs a battery. The forecourt camera picks up a lone infected wandering along the gutter at dusk. It leans on the boarded glass of a former shop and leaves a smudge, then moves on. No packs, no runners, just that slow drift that fills empty days out there. The mark on the light pole from last week looks older now. No fresh paint. The convoy that passed through did not return today. I let that sit without guessing. I pull the folder of copied pages from Sector 9 and read through one last time. The notes on resource limits and crowd masks are neat in their own cold way. The lines say what I already knew from the feel of those months, but seeing the words on paper tightens the ground under my feet. I slide the folder back into its place. I do not take it to the surface. I do not burn it. It will stay until someone honest can use it or until dust hides it for good. Evening settles without shift. I portion a small bowl of rice and vegetables, leave a second bowl on the handoff shelf for Lena and Evan, and place a wrapped bar of chocolate beside it because today felt thorough. The shelf slides in, and a soft thank you comes through the gate. I smile without making a sound and return to the bench. The corridor stays still. No taps tonight. I set a fresh bottle of water by the hatch anyway because the cost is nothing and the habit is worth more than the plastic. The glow sticks throw that steady low light on the floor paint. The words on the wall hold a quiet edge. The safe room lamp is dark because it does not need to shine. That is the goal. Tools that turn off because the person using them did not need them. I place the last line of the day in the logbook with slow, clear letters. We keep air, water, and quiet. We do not lead anyone here. We do not wake old machines. We help who we can see. We stay humane without opening doors that will end us. I add a second line after a beat. Rules stand until systems change. I cap the pen and close the book. Before lights out, I walk to each switch and each valve and confirm positions by touch. The fan runs low, enough to keep the air from settling into dead corners. The battery wall shows strong. The water tank reads steady. The mezzanine gate rests in its latch. The pistol sits on its mount. The large knife sits in its sheath. The carbine and shotgun remain locked in steel. The flashbangs sleep in their own box, where they will probably stay for a long time. I am fine with that. I sit for a while and do nothing. Not sleep, not thought. Just the kind of pause a person earns by doing the simple things all the way to the end of the list. The room does not demand anything from me for a few minutes. No motion sensors chirp, no vibration shows. The quiet has weight, but it is the right kind. I stand and take one last look at the painted letters over the hatch. The words do not need more paint. They do not need a name. They tell me what I need to do and what I need not do. I push the bolt into its seat and walk away. I have done enough for this hour. I will do more in the next. I will hold the line I drew and add paint only when the old paint fails. Night meets me with a steady fan, a quiet mezzanine, and a safe room lamp that stays dark because it does not need to shine. I listen to the building settle, and I picture the map in my head. Workshop, diner, gas station, Sector 9 corridors, culvert, caches, rooftop visor. All of it laid out in clear paths. No storms on the cameras, no trucks on the corner, no new marks on the poles. The town rests in its broken shape, and I rest in mine. I switch the projector on low and let a silent film play with subtitles. The moving lines pull at thought without taking it away from the room. I do not chase memories. I do not push them away either. I sit with the ordinary sound of air on metal and let the minutes pass without trying to write meaning into them. Before sleep, I slide the envelope marked, "Read this first" out 2 inches, confirm that the clip still holds, and push it back. I touch the folder under the bench and the key on my neck and the cool steel of the hatch pin. I look once toward the mezzanine and once toward the sector door. Then I reach for the lamp and let the room fall to the last quiet light of the panel strip above the sink. Some things will never be explained. The choice made at the gate on the second day, the reasons for the signals buried in old paper, the line between a person who hides in a vent and a person who knocks on a door. Those do not change what I do next. I keep the air clean. I feed the ones inside this roof. I leave water where a small hand can find it. I keep the machines that could shout our name in pieces. I write rules in paint and follow them. When I finally lie down, I do not listen for a story. I listen for the fan. It holds one tone from start to finish. The room settles into one more careful night. No promises, no grand words. Just a system that works because someone shows up and turns the right knobs in the right order. That is enough. The rest belongs to anyone who wants to imagine it. That's all for now, survivor. Thanks for listening. If you want to keep these stories alive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. And a huge thank you to everyone supporting this channel with extra memberships, especially Rangers and Legends, Carlos Herrera, Luca Mod, thanks. Also drop a comment and let me know what story you want to hear next. Jack's Nightmares signing off.